Hello and welcome to Connecting Jewish Grandparents, the podcast for Jewish families who believe in the power of connection across generations. I am Sharona Hassan, your hostess, and I'm thrilled that you're here. I'm thrilled that you are spending the time to commit yourself to the importance of these connections. So whether you're in the middle, like I am, between the grandparents and the grandkids, or you're the grandparent really investing yourself in this most meaningful relationship, I'm thrilled that you are here. Welcome. I was talking to one of the grandparents in my preschool, right? Kindergarten, where I teach. And I was explaining to her, this is grand plan. This is what I'm doing. And this Safta says, well, it's pretty easy connecting with your grandchildren, isn't it? Well, I don't have the grandchildren, but she said, yes, all you have to do is show up authentically and consistently. I was like, yeah, that does seem really simple, doesn't it? Show up authentically and consistently. There, I don't need grand plan. I don't need. But I said, is it that easy? And she said, well, if you're in the same country, it is. She picks her grandchildren up however many days a week from school, and she is there. And it is beautiful that this woman is able to be consistent and authentic. And maybe you are also able to do it with such ease, but I don't think it's very easy at all. I think both of those are very hard. But I want to explore consistency for three major reasons. One, because it's very important. Two, because it's really hard for me personally. I know the struggle with consistency. And three, because I want to dedicate today's episode in memory of my grandparents, my father's parents. Dedicated in the memory of Chaim Shlomo ben Benjamin and Peha bat Shemuel. My grandparents did that consistency showing up so well. It was really phenomenal what they did, and it is in their merit that I am here in front of you sharing Grand Plan and working to connect Jewish grandparents. So I want to say a little about how they did it because they did it so well, and then try to make it relevant to you along the way. So the first consistent thing that they did was they called. Every Sunday, they called the house. Now, I don't know if I should confess this or not, but this was in the early days of caller ID, and we didn't always answer. They kept showing up consistently, and sometimes I, the grandchild, did not show up by answering the phone and making myself present for them. I kind of shut them out sometimes. But here's the thing, they didn't give up. And every Sunday, they would keep calling Grandma and Grandpa every Sunday. And so if they were there, at some point I was like, oh, I guess I need to be there too. So it was their consistency, but that never-ending determination. I feel like if I called somebody once or twice and there was no answer, I might just give up. They were consistent. And so we'll come back to it in a little while, but I beseech you to come up with ways for you to make it consistent too. The second thing they did was when they showed up in person. And again, I'm not saying it was easy. And that's part of what I want to do with connecting Jewish grandparents and Grand Plan is make it clear that it's not all magical and perfect. I want to get real, real with you. Okay? It is not as though every moment of every trip when they showed up was amazing. It wasn't. There were bad moments. There were things where I didn't necessarily want to, and my it wasn't all perfect, but it was consistent and authentic. So sometimes we would fly to them, sometimes they would fly to us. And this is when I was, a child growing up. But this consistency, and when I was then married, and my grandfather was now the great grandfather. I should say something else about his determination. By age 40 something, by my age, he was legally blind and legally deaf. And so in case my not answering the phone was already not enough of a hurdle, he had his own struggles, and yet he kept showing up consistently. I got married in Israel, and he, my grandfather and my grandmother on both sides, flew into Israel from the event, from the United States. And then, in case Israel wasn't already far enough away, I moved to Australia. And my grandmother passed away. And then my grandfather said, I want to be there with you. You are important to me. And he didn't make it all the way to Australia. We met in Israel the next time I was there. Showing up was so important. He couldn't see me, he couldn't hear me, like my entire life. And yet, he showed up consistently, flying all the way to Israel well into his 80s. When he was already close to 90, I moved to America. He is in Texas, I'm in Seattle. And he flew again to see me because he showed up, not just on the phone, but in person consistently. Okay, so I think I've given you enough examples of what consistency looked like for me as a child. Now let's figure out, reframe that slightly, and how can consistency be there for you? Not necessarily like the grandmother in the kindergarten I teach in who was like, just pick them up from school. You're in the same country, you can do that. You, my dear listener, are probably not so geographically close. And even if you are, it's not that easy. But let's say you are remote. How are you showing up? Technology is an incredible gift. So you can call. You can call every week at just about the same time and have that date where there's a set expectation that this is grandparent time. And if you want to get all in, then we go into the Grand Plan curriculum. Those are the course packets that I provide, the fun things of this is the time we're doing it inconsistently, and this is the thing we're doing consistently. You can check the links below and look into it. It's all coming together. Okay, what if it's not yet ready to be a consistent thing at the same time? And you call and there's no answer? Then you start leaving little audio messages. Not all the time. You don't overwhelm them. Maybe once a day, a few times a week. I saw this and I thought of you. Send. Right? That you are actively, consistently sharing memories with them, sharing moments with them. This was really pretty, made me think of you. Hey, did you see what happened in sports? Blah, blah, blah. Consistently sharing that. Okay, so make it possibility one, a shared ritual. Again, the grand plan packets, but whatever that is of this is the time that's grandma and grandpa time. Option two, as I said, was you don't do it in that moment. You're leaving them an audio trail, a video trail. Use that technology. I mean, if you want to be really cool and old-fashioned, you're sending mail. And it's nothing more exciting than ripping open an envelope. That absolutely can part of it. So you can either be, using your phone or email or real mail, but sending it to them consistently. Maybe those are the two best ones I can come up with, but it's also about when can you be in person and being planning that ahead to say, I'm going to show up and I'm going to be there with you and we're going to be together every summer, Rosh Hashanah, Chanukah, Pesach, and it might not happen every year, but that is the goal to be consistent in when you are celebrating it. And really, that I think is the best way to transmit the Jewish legacy is to be sharing Jewish rituals together in person. I want to say about my grandparents, though, those that I'm memorializing today, Grandma and Grandpa, I'm wearing Grandma's necklace right now, keeping close to my heart. The Jewish legacy was not their number one priority. They shared with us a love of the Chicago Cubs and other sports and things and traits like the consistency, grit, determination. So, am I an ardent Cubs fan? No. But their legacy meant something to them, so it meant something to me. And when I see somebody wearing a Cubs hat, shirt, I feel a kinship because it was a value of theirs. But I know that I work to embody the grit and determination that they show. Ah, I mentioned earlier that consistency is hard for me. It's just me being very honest. So, how do you make something consistent when it's hard to remember to hold all the things in your head? Again, that's the joy of technology. Google Calendar is a wonderful thing, and there's other ways to do it. But if you're not going to remember on your own, make it a consistent thing. Find the tools to make it happen. We'll talk about authenticity in a different episode. But I've left out, I guess, again, the middle piece of the middle generation. And when I say find that time and keep calling, don't do it without checking in on the boundaries. Find out in advance, hey, what time would work? I really want to speak to the grandkids every week or consistently. What time can we do that so that everybody's on board, so that the middle generation is in on it? Because depending on the age of the grandkids, if you're just leaving countless audio on your daughter-in-law's phone, that could be hard for her. It's not going straight to the grandkids. So you're going to need to get those boundaries and borders, which we talked about in last week's episode, set up so it can happen joyously for everybody. All right. I hope that it is as easy as for you as it was for the grandmother in my class, but really with the determination that my grandparents exhibited of being able to show up consistently for your grandchildren to make that connection as meaning as full as possible. And our podcast, Connecting Jewish Grandparents, that is a big piece of what it's about. And again, if it doesn't come naturally to you, there's ways that I'm describing now to do it, and we can do some personal coaching to really help you embody the vision of the grandparent you want to be. So until next time, thank you. Thank you for being part of Connecting Jewish Grandparents.